You think it'll alarm the listeners if I just do one welcome? Alarm me a little bit to say it like that. This is the Metaphoric Music Review. As always, I'm Gabe.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Darin.
Talk about the music that Pitchfork thinks everyone should be talking about. If you don't know, Pitchfork is an online music magazine. It's basically the loudest voice in music today. Each week, they review a bunch of albums. Most get pretty mediocre scores, but a couple get this coveted BNM or BNR label. Dan, what is that?
BNM, Best New Music. BNR, Best New Reissue.
Right, so those are the releases that Pitchfork thinks all lovers of music should be talking about, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're also going to talk about a few notable pans, some gems that Pitchfork is either underrated or ignored completely, Pitchfork's Weekly Sunday Classic, and Pitchfork's BNTs, or Best New Tracks. Important to remember, though, you don't need to know or care about Pitchfork at all to enjoy this podcast. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about the week in music. So, Darin, what are we talking about this week?
For the week of June 26th through July 2nd, we'll be discussing Prince and the Revolution's Purple Rain Deluxe Expanded Edition, which received a BNR, Mike's May God Bless Your Hustle, which was a BNM, and for the Sunday Classic, we had Marvin Gaye's Here, My Dear.
Oh, you said that like a question or something. Of course, the big news of the week, the thing everybody's talking about, is Jay-Z's new album, 444, but we are going to talk about that next week. You know, it's kind of a bummer sometimes, like the nature of this show. We're like the last people to talk about these big cultural events, but really, you know, everybody else is like rushing their review out as quickly as possible. So ours is guaranteed to be the most accurate. Am I right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
You'll get the full take, and Darin's going to love it, I'm sure. But okay, we'll kick it off with the best new tracks. This week we got 4 of them, which Pitchfork typically uses to highlight promising singles. We like to start each episode by listening to the week's most notable BNTs right now in real time, and we try to decide which releases actually have a chance of getting that coveted BNM. Unfortunately, we want to talk about a lot of Prince here in a minute, a whole lot of Prince. So we're going to skip all but one of these BNTs. One of them was from like Jay-Z, and, you know, we're going to talk about that album soon. Tyler, there's no way he's going to get a BNM because Pitchfork hates him. And so what was the one really, I thought, really big, high-profile BNT this week, Dan?
That'd be St. Vincent with New York. So let's take a listen.
I've been new. We're the only motherfucker in the city who can stand me. I have lost a hero. I have lost a friend. But for you, darling, I do it all again.
Along with people like Arcade Fire and LCD Sound System, St. Vincent is one of Pitchfork's favorite artists. Her last 3 solo records have all gotten BNMs and ranked very high in the year-end list. No announcement yet about her massively anticipated 5th LP, but the entire music world raving about this single, which is her first since 2014. Thoughts on New York from St. Vincent?
Boy, it really took me back. Like, I haven't, you know, listened to her since her 2014 album, and I don't know, just hearing her voice was kind of exciting to me.
Yeah, I feel the same. I hadn't really listened to a lot of her in a long time, but it was just kind of like immediately refreshing.
Yeah, I liked it. I've never been, a super big fan of hers or anything, but, it was good. Look forward to the record whenever that comes out. Are you guys excited for it at all?
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. I was kind of worried because there was there were like rumors, or maybe they're confirmed, and I don't even know the name, but she's working with some like proper pop, you know, producers and like co-songwriters and stuff, apparently. And, people were concerned she's going to like sell out and stuff. And in fact, it definitely sounds like it has more of a, professional pop sheen. Like she's almost left the art rock thing behind, but I thought she was doing it really well. It wasn't like any degradation of her artistic integrity or anything like that. It sounded like really inventive pop music.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking too. Like it's kind of her own spin on, on pop music. And I was going to ask you, I mean, she's been doing a lot of like collaborations since like 2014. But Gabe, do you think like have you revisited her albums at all?
I haven't. It's weird because I would say, I don't know, I would say I like her a lot. I mean, I thought that her previous album was a little bit like overhyped. Like it wasn't as good as the one before that, Strange Mercy or whatever it's called.
I agree.
But it was really, really good. But it's weird to me that I haven't revisited it. And, Dan would say that disqualifies it from being like good or something if I just don't revisit it. But it has kind of like stuck with me. Like I can remember my favorite parts and stuff like that. Does that get a pass, Dan?
I mean, yeah, I guess if it's got some sort of staying power, at least in your mind, I'll give that a pass.
That's what I'm like worried about though, because I've revisited like a little bit, but I just didn't. It was only like in 2014 or like early on when I first picked her up that I was like really into it, and every other like subsequent listen just hasn't been quite as exciting. So I'm a little worried.
Okay, but was this single at least give you a little new hope?
It did actually.
Same. That's how I feel. I kind of expect you to be a hater, Dan. Are you excited at all?
I mean, I'm not excited. Like I said, I've never been like a huge fan of her. I checked out all their albums, as they came out, but kind of like you guys said, they, didn't really. I didn't really listen to them past 2014 too much. But I thought the single was good for what it was, and I liked her other 3 records, or other albums. So I'm into checking out the next one.
Yeah, bring it on. Hopefully she freaking announces it soon.
Yeah.
And it doesn't turn into a 2018 record. All right. Well, we ready to get on to the proper reviews?
Yeah.
You say you want to lead up, but you can't seem to make up your mind. I think you better close it and let me guide you to the purple rain. Purple rain, purple rain.
All right. You just heard a snippet from our first review this week, Prince, Purple Rain. Just to remind you, on Pitchfork reviews things, they review them on a 0 to 10 scale, somewhere on 8.2 or 8.3. They give it a BNM if it's a new release, or a BNR if it's a reissue of an old album, anthology, greatest hits, something like that. So, Darin, what do we got first?
Right. Prince and the Revolution, Purple Rain Deluxe Expanded Edition, which was reissued by Warner Brothers, and on Monday got a perfect 10 BNR in a review by Brad Nelson. A little bit of background on this huge album. Prince was notoriously protective over his music and very resistant to remasters and deluxe reissues of his albums. One might actually assume that we are only getting this new deluxe remaster of Purple Rain because of Prince's death, but in fact, Prince himself oversaw this entire project shortly before his death. He had struck a deal with Warner Brothers, right, and got like the rights back to his music, which was
they'll give him the rights back if he reissues them and gives them all the money he's been robbing from them all this time.
Naturally, the entire music world is thrilled to hear this 1984 classic in new and improved form, but equally exciting are the 2 discs of bonus material. One collects all of his singles from the era, but the other is all previously unreleased material from the legendary Prince vaults. We want to handle this special record a little differently than usual by breaking it down track by track and saving a little time to discuss that bonus material. We're guessing background information is pretty unnecessary here, but just in case, here is the short version. Purple Rain is Prince's 6th studio album, actually the first to feature his backing band, The Revolution, and the soundtrack to an iconic 1984 film of the same name, which of course starred Prince in his very first acting role. Together with the film, this phenomenally successful album took Prince from semi-obscurity to true superstardom overnight. Before Purple Rain, Prince was seen as a little more than a extra funky urban novelty act, to quote Pitchfork's review. But after, he was challenging Michael Jackson and Madonna for king/queen of pop status. Honestly, we could have just given him both. And his reputation as one of the boldest innovators in music and pop culture in general has remained indisputable. So before we get into the tracks, what is your history with this album, Purple Rain?
I mean, obviously, this is a huge one, and we talked Prince a bit when he passed away,
right after he died.
That was a year ago. So obviously, familiar with Purple Rain. Love Prince, love the album. What about you, Gabe?
Yeah, this was like a big one for me personally. I mean, I went through this thing. It was a long thing where I was like very resistant to 80s music, especially like 80s pop. I was irrationally angry, and I guess I still kind of am, about like the poor sound quality of everything released in the 80s, which is part of why this remaster is so exciting to me. But I don't know. There's something about like the 80s. It was just seemed like the worst decade ever. And then I got a little smarter and realized there was all this cool underground shit. But when I finally got to this, decided to dabble, I think I almost started with Prince. And, this record just fucking blew me away. Like, it was so weird because I knew stuff like, When Doves Cry and stuff like that. I knew the tunes, or like Purple Rain, as like these corny kind of over the top things, but then they just like sucked me in completely. And I don't know, I've just been like in love with him ever since. What about you, Darin?
Yeah, I mean, I too have a pretty long personal history with Prince and Purple Rain, to be specific. I think, to me as a kid, I think Prince, I sort of always considered him to be very similar to Michael Jackson in the sense of just knowing like the radio hits and stuff. Never really got into his albums until a little bit later, but when I did, I mean, Purple Rain was just like mind blowing. I mean, there was really no other way, I guess, to describe it. And it still remains as something that is so uniquely Prince, or just him as an artist. Like, there's just no one has ever matched or probably will ever come close to kind of like what he accomplished with this record.
And we should mention that maybe we mentioned it on the last time we talked about Prince, but me and you, Darin, we performed as Prince and the Revolution at our like high school. They do this blast from the past type of thing, and we played it. We properly played Purple Rain.
In fact, one of the like first posts on our Instagram at Metaphoric Music is you guys dressed up for that show. Yeah,
I really need to dig into the archives, maybe our own vault per se, and, and bring the video out, get post it.
Oh yeah. All right, we'll repost those pictures. But yeah, we were in full get up, which we got entirely from thrift stores. So it was a good time.
Have either of you guys seen the movie?
I've seen it like on TV, like on VH1. I don't think I've ever like seen the whole thing at once though, but I've seen like most of it on VH1.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I was like trying to remember this week like the movie, and I'm wondering like if I ever even saw the whole thing, because I feel like it was just on VH1 a lot, and I like would watch parts of it a lot, and I don't know, and that was still a long time ago, so I really don't remember. Weren't you like a little more into it, Darin?
Yeah, I've actually seen the movie a couple of times. It's been a while, but I definitely remember thinking that Prince was like extremely short, which I mean, it's obviously true, but he's like very short in the movie as well, because I think the girl that he's after is like either just as tall or maybe taller than him.
I take offense to this, by the
way. But his the stage performances are definitely like a fond memory. I mean, those are pretty cool for sure. His acting, though, I don't know. Leaves a little to be desired, I guess.
I just looked it up. I'm actually 2 inches taller than Prince. So.
Wow. You shouldn't have admitted that on air. That's really
anyone I can be taller than, I'll take it.
He's going to add that to his own little personal...
He's 2 inches taller than a man who has had more sex than any other human being on this.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. There you go.
Not bad. All right, should we start breaking it down?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's Go Crazy. Track 1. I guess we should try to describe the sound of this track.
It is hard to describe things like this. You know, we talked about it with Sgt. Pepper and OK Computer. These things that you just kind of assume everyone knows, right. And it's like so important that it's hard to pretend it doesn't exist to talk about it. But I think Let's Go Crazy in particular, that would always kind of like, it sounds like a concert or like a party to me. Like, yeah, I think maybe his like speech at the beginning, it's kind of, I've always like, I've never, you know, I don't remember the movie well, but I've always felt it feels like him coming out and like saying that, and then, you know, the band kicking up. But this one's like a real like party kind of track. I mean, you know, the title, Let's Go Crazy, I think it's a super fitting title.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the best intro songs probably ever.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
One of the things I love about this album is how, you know, tidy it just feels, like so well put together. You know, like this is like a great intro song. Like it wouldn't go well anywhere else on the album, you know, other than the very beginning. And it's just such a great way to like introduce you into this world. Like you're immediately sucked in, and he kind of like never lets go, you know, until the very end.
Yeah, I mean, I think like what makes it so amazing, right, is that sort of the story of the movie in a way, the story of Prince in real life at this time is that he's like got aspirations to be like a superstar. Like he's like this transcendent genius, but he's just not on top. And he's like fulfilling it. Like when you listen to this album, you're hearing him fulfill it like in real time. And you know, just the confidence of coming out with this song, right? Like coming out first with this song, it like just sounds like a superstar. Like he's just carrying himself that way. And it's wild that it starts off with like this weird eulogy or something like to life and da-da-da-da, but then, and that's just so Prince. But when it kicks off, I mean, I think that Prince was aware, Pitchfork's review goes into this a little bit, but like he was really aware of what was big at the time, which was stuff like Springsteen. This record came out the same year as Springsteen's like Born in the USA and stuff like that. And it's almost like Prince was hesitant to do that, but was like, all right, you guys want some like fucking Springsteen-esque rockers? Like I can do that better. And it's got that classic, like almost Springsteen, like dun, 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 like the way he kind of does his riffs. It always reminds me of. I mean, I just feel so much like this is genuine determination to take over the world and him accomplishing it. Like you get to hear that happen.
Yeah, it's almost hard to believe that you would describe Prince as like semi-obscure before this album, because
it's a weird thing to think about.
Yeah, it just sounds like he is already the biggest name in music when you come out with something like this, and it's just such a great like party song. I mean, it really sets the mood. It sets the mood, I should say.
You guys agree with me about like the Springsteen comparison? I mean, I seriously feel like he was like looking around, like, what do I got to do to be a superstar right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. I never really thought of it myself. I'm not a huge Springsteen fan or anything, but yeah, I could see that, and I think you're right. He wanted to take over, and the way to do that is do what other people are. The other people on top do what they're doing, and then do it better.
Right. And he shreds on this fucking song.
Yeah, right. I think that's something. I think we've talked about this before, but that's something like people forget about Prince, is that like he is like the best guitar player ever. Like you don't think of that when you think of Prince. You don't think guitar. I don't think, but he'll surprise you.
Well, and I mean, I don't think he lets like the guitar like dominate any song really. It's kind of just whenever he feels like adding it in there, he does something incredible on it. And I would say that like with this remaster, my God, it sounds like so much better. Like
I know. I was thinking like, if like a lot of people don't recognize how great of a guitar player Prince is because his records sound like so thin and shitty, but now that it's being remastered, it's like just the guitar is incredible. Like the crunch of the main riff of this song is awesome. And again, like I feel like he's just like, all right, you fuckers like Van Halen or whatever, I can do this way better. Like he's just owning this. He's owning the 80s. It's crazy.
Yeah, really.
All right. Should we any other comments on Let's Go Crazy, or should we keep trudging along here?
No, we should probably keep trudging along, or we're going to be a 4-hour podcast.
All right, take me with you. How would we describe the sound of this one?
This one sounds, a lot more, I guess, like pop radio friendly, I guess.
Okay.
Definitely heavy with like the synthesizers.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously like a real kind of like bubbly love song. It's obviously in the movie. It's used as like, I don't know, some sort of dating sequence, if I remember correctly.
Right.
It was one of my early favorites, actually.
Oh, was that?
I think I was just really attracted to it was like Prince's like perfect poppy love song, because a lot of his other songs he'll Pitchfork mentions that a lot of like contradictions and mixed emotions and different things. This one kind of just stays on the lighter, happier side, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with it. This one kind of sounds like a radio hit. What was this one a hit even though?
I think most of the songs were pretty big hits. Actually,
I think you're right.
Huge.
Yeah, but it's got that kind of feeling with it. I love the and you can hear them way better in the in this remaster. Those like little finger symbols that like happen the whole time. That's it's like a neat little addition. Really, like the first time I listened to it, the remaster, I was like, what the fuck is that noise? I don't think I'd ever noticed that before.
Dan always noticing
those little autistic things.
I liked it though.
Yeah, no, it is great, but I don't know. I mean, it's a good example of like the weird psychedelia that runs through this whole record, and the coolest part about this song to me is like the acoustic guitar. So it's like this, lush, like synthy, like bouncy thing, but there's kind of like I don't know, it just sounds like who would ever think to put an acoustic guitar on a song like this? And it's got like sort of a full, like sort of rich, deep, like chord sound to it. Like the chord he's playing it's not like just a power chord of C or whatever, key the song is in. It's like this like I don't know, kind of moody chord, and then those little like, you know, finger picky parts like it's like a weird twang. I mean, just combining like these lush synths with, and of course like Prince is like sort of in the background vocally here. It's
right.
like more of Apollonia's song or whatever, but there it sounds like sort of a bunch of girls. And you know, the combination of like this weird folksy twangy acoustic guitar with like these lush synths and these like girl group vocals, I mean, it's so psychedelic. It would fit on Sgt. Pepper's or something.
Yeah, that one definitely has like the psychedelic tinge to it, which I think goes with your point of you know, like you said earlier, Gabe, with Let's Go Crazy, like him just taking things and doing them much better than other people were doing them at the time.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is also a testament to just Prince as an artist. Like, you know, I'm sure that the Revolution contributed like ideas and thoughts,
right.
but to me, like, this is, you know, Prince as the architect, you know, kind of putting all this together. And when you read things like he had like 100 songs or something prepared for Purple Rain,
right?
The fact that these 9, you know, and I don't mean to talk about all the other songs, but like every song just seems like it was handled so preciously and so, you know, perfect, and with such perfection, you know what I mean? Like he really intended to let me like write the best, most perfect like pop record, you know, like there's no I don't know, it just doesn't seem like he ever goes off the rails. Like everything is like perfectly thought out, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And it's like, but it's so weird because, you know, like on the previous song, Let's Go Crazy, it's like, you know, it's kind of a rocker, but it's done in like a very Prince way with like very like strange Prince aspects to it. So it's not just like a straight up Springsteen meets Van Halen thing, but you know, it's just awesome that he's like, I don't know, switching to like this weird psychedelic thing. I don't know, he's just like so into like arrangements. And so yeah, speaking of all that, you know, I guess we move on to the beautiful ones. I guess the reason we're going song by song kind of is because every song in here is so different from each other. I mean, to describe the sound of Purple Rain would be like as an album would be damn near impossible. In fact, Pitchfork's review makes some good comments about how like it doesn't even mix genres. It just like is a way. It doesn't have anything to do with genre. It's like free from any restraints of genre.
Well, I mean, it's almost like a genre in and of itself. I mean, right? Like, if I'm referencing Prince or like another artist sounds like Prince, I'm probably referencing Purple Rain in some way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like when I say like Let's Go Crazy sounds like these other artists, kind of like not really, just sounds like Prince doing that, but it sounds like it's not, or you couldn't classify it as like a Springsteen type rocker. You couldn't classify anything here very easily. So easier to take it song by song. And the beautiful ones. We talked about this before. The way we did the Prince tribute was we each picked like a favorite track, and this was Darin's favorite track. So we should go through it again. Maybe our feelings have changed in the last year, but you know, this is one of the songs along with Darling Nikki and When Doves Cry that Prince actually literally plays every single instrument on, which I didn't know before.
Wow.
That's pretty damn impressive.
I know.
He also did so live, right?
Yeah.
How do we describe the sound of this song?
So this one slows things down, tempo wise. You know, Prince gets even a little more, I guess, sensual than he does in the previous song. However, this one kind of gets a little bit darker, I guess, in some of its themes. You know, would you add anything to that, Dan?
No, I think that's a pretty good description. It really like builds up too. You know, it starts out real slow, and then the intensity just like, you know, builds and builds. And I feel like this is kind of your first like real. You're really getting into the album at this point, and this song is just. I mean, you know, they're all great on this record, but this one is just. A little extra great, especially I didn't know what you had just said either, Gabe, that he played everything on this one, but I think this song is, you know, we just talked about how you know, people sound like Prince and whatnot. This is a song like of Montreal. I think owes when Kevin stopped ripping off the Beatles, I think he started ripping off the beautiful ones. You know, there's so many like songs that he does like this exact same kind of build up and that like sing talk thing, which Prince does in this one and does it fantastic.
Yeah, and Pitchfork's review makes a good point, right? So it's like this ballad, and then he sort of like explodes with like passion when he's talking about like do you want him or do you want me? Because I want you thing, and Pitchfork's review talks about like again with this whole theme of like this is a guy who he literally decided to be a superstar. He's like, I'm tired of not being a superstar. I'll just do that today, and you can almost think of it as like him also screaming at just like popular culture or something like do you want these other artists or do you want me or something like that. I mean, I don't think it's totally outside the realm of possibility that's also going on here, but I mean, god damn, if he doesn't sound like, I mean, it's crazy the way this thing builds from like a really moody kind of synthy lush ballad to like an explosion of feeling. I think,
and I think Prince's role in all of this, like vocally, is such a critical part of the song's success, because I mean honestly some like the song, especially the ballad part in the beginning, sounds very 80s to me, like that little ding, 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 sounds like a very potentially like boring 80s song, but like Prince just like takes it in a totally unique direction to where no longer am I like feeling like I'm stuck in the 80s. I'm taken far away into a different world. You know what I mean? Like most artists just don't do that. They play it safe. They stick to that ding, 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 and would probably like repeat it over and over again. And the song would end. Like who would ever think that he would break it down and start screaming at you? Just really like kind of bearing all. And I don't know. This song still remains my favorite Prince track.
Yeah. Why? Just real quick before we move on, why is nothing that Prince does corny? It doesn't feel like a lot of what he does should be corny.
It should be.
Absolutely should.
I think it's because he just sells it so well. Like if you just believe, like like some people can wear like a silly outfit and like they just own it and it works. That's like Prince's entire life. Like Prince is like a silly outfit, but I mean he just, especially, I mean we talked about he's like this tiny little guy and stuff. Like it would be very easy for him to just end up in the what is this character doing? But I mean, you just believe him. You believe that what he's doing is the coolest shit that's ever happened. And
I know,
And I think that's part of the reason why like Dave Chappelle's like skit on Prince is so funny, because you have this like in the back of your mind, you're just like this. I mean, this is such a perfect impression of Prince, because you really think that's how Prince really would be. Yeah, he would be like serving pancakes after a basketball match, at his house. Like makes perfect sense in Prince's world.
Oh my God. All right. We'll move on. Track 4, Computer Blue, which is like a real fan favorite. And in fact, a little bit of history about it that I was reading is, it was actually like a 14-minute thing, like this massive suite. And that's been like bootlegged, but in poor quality for a long time. But it's like this legendary fan thing. And for this release, one of the bonus tracks is like the first official release of, for some reason, not the 14-minute, but like one edit after that where he brought it down to like 12, which I guess is disappointing to some people. He then brought it down to 7 minutes and then decided at the last minute to add Take Me With You to the album, which was originally going to be for like that Apollonia 6 project. Mm-hmm. And when he added that, it like made the two sides like have awkward length. So he cut it down to 4 minutes. So we have a 14-minute like magnum opus that is like a fan favorite cut down to 4. Why is it still so fucking awesome?
Yeah, it's like, it's nuts. It really shouldn't be, because listening to the deluxe side of this album was the first time I had ever heard the like longer 12-minute version or whatever, and it's like still really good. Like you feel like either only the 4-minute version is going to be good, or the 4-minute version is going to sound like a crappy chopped up version of the 14 or whatever. But it's like it works. I think it works better on the album being 4 minutes, but the 12 minutes still good. I don't know. Prince just could pull any goddamn thing off.
I mean, I feel like you can, after hearing the 12-minute, I can like really tell in the 4-minute like where he made the cuts.
Right. Yeah,
it's very, very obvious now. But I mean, I think that it's cool. It's definitely cool. Don't get me wrong, but it just would never have worked, even if we were in the digital age and sides of a vinyl record didn't matter,
right?
Because like Purple Rain to me is just so focused and so.
Yeah,
I mean, every single song is like seems like it's a single. You know what I mean? So for it to have kind of it doesn't drag necessarily, but it goes on and on and on and on. You know what I mean? Into that whole story thing that he gets into towards the end of it. It just wouldn't have fit. It would have kind of like killed the flow, I think.
Yeah, it would have taken some of the thunder away from the last track. I won't spoil what that last song is. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, that one needs to be the long one.
Yeah, it would just be... It would really kill the flow 3 tracks in to stick a 12-minute or 14-minute long song here. And really, thinking about, a vinyl record, it really wouldn't even fit well. You can't get...
Right.
You should stick around 22-ish minutes to a side, and that'd be kind of difficult to do with a 14 right there.
Yeah, well, theoretically, I guess "Take Me With You" would have been gone, but God, I was reading. He had a couple different track lists for this record, and like I just feel like we like averted disaster. Like it ended up being perfect. I'm like so relieved that nothing is different. But on that topic, Computer Blue is a good example of how I swear to God, every second of this record is perfect. Like you said, Darin, he cut just the perfect amount of things out, and everything is just like so carefully crafted. Like the little sort of the outro, but it's really kind of like the bridge part of this song, And in fact, on the bonus disc, we get Father's Song. He actually co-wrote that part with his dad, but it's like a piano ballad version. Oh, he was like, this is a beautiful piano ballad. I'm going to turn it into like some like music out of Sonic the Hedgehog right now. It's like, it's so fucking good, that part. And it just feels like an afterthought. You know what I mean? I know it definitely wasn't because the song was actually so long. But I guess then it's just one small part of a 14-minute thing. But the fact that like just that little bridge that lasts for like 30 seconds is that amazing. I can't even understand it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you guys, like, what part of Computer Blue is your favorite? Because it feels like maybe 3, miniature songs in one. I would say, and I think the outro may be my favorite. Like, I just love. I love to. I start Computer Blue like anticipating that incredible outro.
I know.
Yeah,
it's fucking amazing. And then when the guitars start harmonizing at the end of that part, like, I can't fucking take it.
Which was like, I guess in the extended one, the solo is just like doubled or something, right? Because like when I first heard it, I was like, wait, where's the harmonizing guitar? But it comes in like a little bit later. Thank you, Prince, for cutting that part.
All right. We should move on to Darling Nikki. This is a big song. I looked up a lot of background information about all the different songs, so I'll share a little trivia. Apparently, this was the song that Tipper Gore, she found her daughter singing along to this. Of course, it talks about masturbation and stuff. Yeah, she was so mortified, she started the campaign to get parental advisory stickers put on albums.
PMRC.
So thanks a lot, Prince.
Yep.
And so... yeah, this is the dirty one on the album. Can we describe the sound of the song?
Yeah, it's the dirty one. This is the song that always makes me like wonder why Prince actually is so famous. Like it's like somebody singing songs like this, shouldn't be somebody that's so ubiquitous that like our grandmas know who Prince is,
I know.
And that's always like so weird to me but I guess he just had like the complete charisma to sell it and do it like we talked about on the rest of the record.
Yeah, to me this is the song that sort of allows Prince to sort of transcend like sexuality, to just be beyond masculine or feminine. Like he's just Prince, you know what I mean? Like, and this is, if anyone ever had a question about that, like I would say listen to this song and this is Prince right here. Like this is Prince 100%, and in the movie, this is probably one of the coolest performances. When is it Apollonia, I guess, in the movie too? Yeah. So she's done some stuff or whatever. And she shows up at one of his shows and he's performing the song and he just goes nuts on stage, which I imagine that's probably what it would be like to see him live. I mean, he's like humping and it's just it's great. It's fantastic.
This is a very sexy fucking song.
Yeah.
And we get the like infamous double bass part. Again, this is one of the songs that Prince plays every instrument on, so he's fucking killing it.
Oh, really?
Double bass.
That's him playing the drums?
Metalheads, how it's done.
It is.
God, yeah, that's awesome. I was gonna say the drums on this song are like super rad, and
I know,
and so much so in this new remaster. Like you can really, especially that double bass part, you can like actually hear it. It sounds like a well tuned, nice drum. But yeah, man, I didn't know that was Prince playing that. That's impressive.
I know, and I don't know when the double bass starts coming in. For some reason, it sounds like the audio equivalent of like strobe lights going off. I just can't listen to this without thinking of like that's where strobe lights hit, and it's like so fucking perfect. Okay, a big one. When Doves Cry. This was like Prince's first #1 single. This would have came out. It was the first single from the record, and so it would have been like literally the moment that everybody realized Prince was a god. How do we describe the sound of this iconic song?
It's very bassy.
So much bass.
God, before I describe the song, I do want to say like this was like the first Prince song I ever remember hearing, and also seeing a video of him like in the bathtub and everything, and him crawling across the floor. Like I will never forget. Like it's kind of just always, and it's a cool video, and I just remember, I don't remember how old I was or why I was watching it, but just being kind of like blown away, even as a kid, just being not changing the channel obviously like kids would do. And that's again a testament to Prince's power. As far as the sound, I mean, it's actually like a very just very drum heavy song, I would say. Very minimal. Yeah. Compared to the rest of the album, it's like very interesting how this has very little going on in it. And I've never really paid attention to just how much the drums just kind of drive the entire song,
Yeah, this song, you say it's the first big selling single from Prince, and it sounds like it. This is like I think this is what people think of when you think of Prince. Like it's this a ballady kind of thing that's kind of ridiculous. Like when doves cry, like who thinks of I know. Of such a statement? But it's
should be a cheesy. This should be cheesy.
It should be cheesy. Yeah, but when doves cry is just such a like Prince sentence, like exactly like Darin said, like if anyone except for Prince made a song called When Doves Cry, we would be making fun of it right now.
And it should be very corny, to just have this whole like a dance thing where the singer is just sort of like, maybe I'm too much like my father. Maybe you're too much like my mom. It's the shittiest, corniest thing ever.
And to describe like yelling and fighting as, the sound of doves crying. Like
I know. It's unbelievable. But it like works. It's literally firing on all cylinders. And also, I had like a really personal moment with this because like I sort of knew the song, but when I first listened to this record, like I told you, I was really angry at 80s music, and I was specifically mad about how shitty it sounded. I was like, why does every 80s record sound so bad? Why do they want it to sound like that? Who wants to listen to music with no bass? And then I get to this song, and I'm like, Prince literally didn't put bass in this song. What a fucking asshole. Literally no bass.
Decision. He's just like, no, doesn't need any bass.
Nope,
like, who would ever think
bass.
that?
This is the 80s, baby. We don't need bass. And like, I don't know. It's unbelievable. He wrote a bass line or whatever and just decided it was cooler without it. And it's awesome because it's so minimal that like when finally, because everything's like percussive, and then when finally like that, synth line comes in.
Right.
As the song is building and his vocals start going crazy, which is like my favorite Prince thing ever. It has so much power because it's been so minimal. So then just that single synth line coming in sounds like the biggest crescendo. And again, another example of how every second of this record is just perfect. Like, it sounds like he's just sort of ad-libbing the shit at the end, but it's iconic anyway. Like the and then like the string stuff, like every second of that like long outro is still iconic, even though it just sounds like off the cuff for some reason.
Right. And I don't like the radio mix because it like, cuts out.
Oh my god,
a lot of that ending. But another thing I wanted to mention, like the backing vocals that he does himself for the first part of the song, so perfect. I mean, just one of my favorite things about this song in this album, and like the decision to not include his female vocalists who are in the band. You know,
I know.
Yeah.
Just how could he have known that it was just the right decision? It's it's crazy.
On this remaster, if you listen real closely, it's amazing. Like I'm hearing, extra Princes that I never noticed. Some of them are fucking hilarious. It's like the way left, like way in the background, and you could just hear him like fucking like squealing and stuff. Like it's so good.
Yeah, this remaster is like something you should take the time and find your nicest pair of headphones and listen to the whole thing and just not do anything else. Just pay attention and find those little extra Princes throughout.
Like a treat. All right, I would die for you, literal you there, and a literal for. How would we describe the sound of this one?
So, I think this one kind of goes back to a very, very synth-heavy, electronic kind of sound. To me, the next two songs here almost serve as just like an introduction into the final song.
Hot take.
Yeah, I mean, they not that should take anything away from them as individual songs, but to me, like
it's building to it.
Exactly. When I get to this point, the
that.
album's like, all right, I am like ready to get to Purple Rain, and these two songs sort of seem to lead up to that.
Yeah, well, a little trivia, actually. All three of these last songs were recorded live, and then, of course, Prince did, like, extensive overdubbing. Live at, like, a single concert in Minneapolis, of course, and it was actually Wendy's first show with the band. She was 19.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Now, does a live... do, like, recordings of that actually exist? Like, can somebody get those?
I don't know. I don't think so, but, it... Like, everybody who's in the band says it was like the greatest show they ever played, and I believe them.
Yeah, that sounds great. I don't remember which of these like three songs, but some of them have like clapping, and I always just thought that was added in.
It's Baby I'm a Star.
Is it? Okay, yeah. I always
also the very end of Purple Rain.
Yeah. I always thought that was just added in from the movie. Yeah, I didn't realize it was actually live. That's cool.
Yeah. So I would die for you. Like you said, it gets like really lush again, which is awesome because we've just gone super minimal with When Doves Cry, and then like just the way this song starts, is like the lushest intro possible, and then it's just like that awesome. I don't know, like that synth sound, like with like the hi-hats, like the electronic hi-hats, like like really fast, and then the drums are like really slow. Actually, it's just like boom, boom, like it creates like all this space in the arrangement that is just awesome. But then it's got like, I don't know, it's just like the most. It's like a I don't know. It's again a really should be cheesy song, and especially like just the way it's delivered. It's like this. You feel like, I don't know. Could you dance to this?
Yeah,
yeah, you could. Dance to this.
Yeah, I think so. I think you can probably dance to every Prince song. I think that's a prerequisite.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just weird. It feels like it's in slow motion. This song, just the way it's like I don't know. It trips me out. But I love the arrangement on this. But I guess you're right. It flows almost directly or literally directly into Baby I'm a Star. So I guess we can do the same here. Baby I'm a Star. How do we feel about this?
Well, I mean, I think the title, like we've talked about, like this is Prince deciding that he's a star, and he's saying it here as directly as possible. I think this is him coming out and saying I'm the the biggest thing right now. Fuck Michael Jackson and all that.
Yeah, I think this song kind of like almost is like a reprise of Let's Go Crazy. Like it calls back to that introduction, and I think it's the perfect setup for the dramatic conclusion. But because we go through all these like very personal like relationship kind of songs and everything, and then we get here and it's just a declaration. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like, he's basically it blows my mind because he's basically like, proclaiming, like you said, I am a superstar now. I just did it. You just heard it in those songs. And we haven't even gotten to Purple Rain yet. Yeah, and he's right.
Yeah, exactly.
He's still right that he's the greatest ever already, and we're not at Purple Rain. I just can't get over that. But you're right. It's like a rocker. It is a great like hook. It just has that quality of like almost like a victory lap to it, which is awesome because that means he decided he had conquered the world on like track 7. 8 is the victory lap, and then 9 is like the I'm even better than
just
that.
Like cementing it in there.
Yeah. But it has that quality to it, and it's it's just fantastic fun. It adds a beautiful symmetry to the record, kind of playing off of Let's Go Crazy, but then flows perfectly into Purple Rain, the big one. So where the hell do we start with this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a song that just, if the previous 8 tracks didn't show you how great Prince was, this one will. I mean, it's just like, it's how long is the song? Like 8.5 minutes. And it just like builds and builds and builds, and it's just like, I mean, it's just so perfect. It's really just hard to even explain. I mean, if you're listening to this and you've never heard the song Purple Rain,
right,
go ahead and pause it and listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, I would almost, even though I mentioned that The Beautiful One's my personal favorite, the title track here, Purple Rain, is worth the price of admission. Like if you don't hear anything else by Prince, like this is the one song you should hear. And actually, I would put this song up against Hey Jude from the Beatles. The reason why I do that is, you guys remember when Prince played at the Super Bowl, however long ago it was. Purple Rain was like probably the shining moment. The entire stadium singing it along with him.
It literally rained.
Literally rained. I mean, this song it's powerful,
I know. Like, brings a whole world together. I mean, it's a great song. It's like genuinely moving when it has no business being, just like all these other potentially corny songs. I mean, this is like genuinely so moving. And like, I feel like I knew this song from like parodies of it or something before I actually heard it. And then when I actually heard it, I was like, I feel like weeping or something. It's so real. But it's got it's this incredible arrangement where like it's just like these again with like the real psychedelics of this, and just obviously like the phrase Purple Rain brings like sort of a psychedelic thing to your mind, but just like the like woozy guitars and just like the emptiness of the drum beat and everything. It's like incredible. And then we keep going, and again with this thing, it just blows me away every time, where like there's not a wasted second on this record, not even on this 8.5 minute song, where like every part is perfect and iconic. Like the guitar, like that's iconic, and then we get to like the like that's iconic.
Yes.
The string outro is iconic. Like there's not a second wasted, and it's like almost 9 perfect minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the kind of song where you get lost in it and you don't realize it's been 8.5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a song that I'm sure all three of us could just recall from memory, like very easily, the entire song.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
How many?
It's one of those things, like if you can just think about it and you could play the whole song in your head, like perfectly.
I always think about, have you seen that meme that's like, if somebody holds a gun to your head and they say you have to recite all the lyrics of a song, and if you mess up at all, they'll shoot you.
Yeah.
I always think like, I just do Purple Rain. It'd be so funny.
Okay.
I do all the squeals and shit.
I like
too.
you pick a 9-minute song for that situation. That's ballsy. It's ballsy. I like that.
Real smart.
Yeah, I know.
Hold on, there's a guitar solo before the hoo-hoo part. Just give me.
I'm gonna be doing the air guitar until we get there for sure. But okay, so in the time that we've been talking about this, I guess you basically could have listened to the album yourself. But final thoughts about the whole record? Any final thoughts?
I mean, it's just again, it's weird. The past 3 weeks, we've talked about 3 of these, perfect records that are just
juggernauts.
Juggernauts of their era. I mean, Sgt. Pepper, the '60s, OK Computer, the '90s, and I mean, I think this is the big one of the '80s.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not much else to be said. I mean, this. It's such a perfect album. It's an album that I could revisit at any time. The remaster is by far the most definitive version. Like,
yes.
You should never listen to anything else. I guess I would say, before we get into, a little bit of bonus stuff, like, the Pitchfork review did mention like that Purple Rain was also recorded live. You mentioned that too, Gabe, and that it was actually originally 12 minutes. Like,
right.
God, I am a little bit curious to know what some of that sounds like. Do you guys think that it would like change your thoughts on how the album is, or just make you appreciate what we do have?
Yeah, I don't think it would like change my opinion. It's neat to hear. I like to hear people's like processes. Like I really love those Bob Dylan things they've been doing where they just released every single thing that he recorded for an album.
Right.
It's just really cool to hear. Especially somebody that's like such a genius like Prince or Dylan. Like how did you decide from those 12 minutes what 3 minutes needed to go, 3.5 minutes needed to go, that's just super interesting to me.
Yeah, this one sounds a lot less like edited than I guess like Computer Blue, you know what I mean? Like I could
it's harder to
think of any point where you would change.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can. What I suspect is that they just let like the feedback drag on for an extra like 4 or 5 minutes because you can hear like the piano kind of like disappear, like it's fading out or something. But it's that really leads us nicely into the bonus tracks, which are like both fascinating and frustrating because it's clear that there's so much more out there in the vaults. Stuff like that 12-minute edit exists, the 14-minute full version of Computer Blue. If anybody really, really needs to hear that, the whole live show, maybe of I'm assuming that those 3 tracks were recorded at. He was basically recording constantly. So is it greedy to be like, we got a whole disc of unreleased Prince stuff? Am I being greedy to say like, why isn't there more?
No, I don't think so. I mean, like I said, the whole thing that Dylan's been doing the past 10 or so years. I hope they do that with Prince. Part of me is a little, because he's like dead, so it wasn't like his decision. But he's dead. Fuck it. Let's hear it.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's greedy at all. I think unfortunately, it's probably going to be a situation where they're just going to slowly piecemeal it out to us so that they can maximize profits on it, which is a real shame.
I know.
Yeah, I feel like because they did this remaster in 2015, and then I genuinely feel like when Prince died, like Purple Rain was like one of the highest selling albums of 2016, and I genuinely feel like they were just waiting for that to kind of
let everyone buy
chill out a little bit,
and buy it again,
and then remaster. Yes. So they're going to just milk us. We're going to be like 60 when we hear that.
Well, it's too bad that this came out in the 80s because one of the reasons they are doing those Dylan things is like copyright law. If you don't like use something within whatever 50, 60 years or whatever, then, the copyright runs out. So they have to release it to hold on to those copyrights. But, this came out in the 80s. So we have, many, many more years before they like have to do something with that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, I wish they would just do those kind of sets, just come out and release a, 20 disc everything that he recorded during.
I know. And even if you're not gonna, please just hurry up and do the album. Like, don't make me wait till like next year to hear Sign of the Times.
I know.
And
Just release it.
3 years from now, we hear 1999. I want you to remaster everything for the love of God.
That was a great thing that the Beatles did when they finally did the last year.
All of it.
Yeah, they all came out on the same day. And I get, Prince has a lot more albums than the Beatles and stuff. But at least, release Purple Rain, this month.
Chunks of them.
Yeah, and then, 3-4 months later, Sign of the Times, Dirty Mind, something. Like, don't just sit on it. But I know they're going to, and that's going to suck.
I know. All right, maybe we shouldn't be complaining so much because there is some absolute fire on this unreleased disc. I really believe that. So the third disc is the singles, and I didn't know the song Erotic City, which was, I guess, a minor hit, but it's a B-side of Let's Go Crazy, I think. And that is a fire song. But as far as the unreleased stuff goes, I mean, Pitchfork's review even says this, and I just kind of felt it the first time I heard it. Like, We Can Fuck, the song, is unbelievably good.
Yeah, it is. And again, what a Prince title. We Can Fuck. I just wonder, if that song had been released in 1985, how many more people would exist in the world today?
It's a fact. It has to be a fact.
Prince saved us from overpopulation by holding on to the road.
Yeah.
Do you have any like favorites on this disc, Darin?
Yeah, the one you just mentioned was good. Wonderful Ass is fun.
Oh yeah,
Another
I like
Prince
Love and
title.
Sex, you know. Yeah,
Love and
yeah.
Sex is awesome.
Yeah.
Love and Sex is like a great rocker.
All of these are good, you know, but they all obviously pale in comparison. Kind of similar to like when we were talking about OK Computer. Like it was very, very clear that these songs just could not have fit on the album.
I agree with that, but like they wouldn't fit. But I think they are like excellent. Like I think they're
like maybe they're certainly worthy. They're worthy of being on their own album of sorts. You know,
They could have been like on a different album. Like the next album could have just been made up of these things. Yeah.
In fact, disc 2 plays almost like a record in a weird way.
Yeah,
The way it like closes with Father's Song, you know, this kind of like emotional piano thing. I mean, it almost like moves in a very listenable way. And, you know, I plan on just like listening to this and crying while I wait for these vaults to open the fuck up, like, you know, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It plays pretty well like a record. I mean, I hope if Prince didn't set up the sequencing himself, as long as like whoever is taking care of it, I hope they at least put in the care with the sequencing and everything that it seems they did with this one. Unless, you know, I mean, maybe they just got lucky, but
yeah. So, any other thoughts, or should we move on?
Yeah, one we're forgetting on the B-side spot, Another Lonely Christmas. Is that not the saddest song ever? That song, you know, put Mount Erie to shame, I think.
Yeah, it makes the Mount Erie dude look like a little bitch.
oh my god!
No, I'm not kidding. I'm kidding.
Send your hate mail to Gabe.
It's so much hate.
Metaphoricmusic@gmail.com.
No, it's great. I mean, it's great. There are a lot of really great gems here, but again, you could have listened to this whole thing in the time we've been talking about it. So should we move on?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yeah.
Cause I don't dream enough, and this creaky floor, you can see the dust. I just need a swat, and now I don't need your bugs, and now I mean to cry. I'm just feeling numb. I know succession's near, and I can hear it come. I know depression hit, and I'm scared to jump. And I'm scared.
All right, to start a clip from our next review, Mike's May God Bless Your Hustle, which was self-released and on Friday got an 8.3 BNM in a review by Matthew Strauss. A little bit of background, Mike is an 18-year-old rapper from New York's DIY hip-hop scene who's getting a lot of attention for his melancholy and laid-back flow, as well as his impressive ability to describe what it's like to grow up black and depressed. Pitchfork calls his lyrics, quote, so solid they could gather moss, and compares Mike to Earl Sweatshirt and MF Doom. They also praise the sparse and abstract beats, mostly produced by his friends in the Slums crew, as they're known, and compare the instrumentals to those of Madlib and Jay Dilla. So I'm guessing none of us have any previous familiarity with Mike. And in fact, has anybody heard anybody but Pitchfork talking about Mike?
No, I haven't. In fact, I like looked up the album on Rate Your Music, and it has just 55 ratings on there. So you know,
God,
this is not a huge seller. I don't think
they're trying to be first.
Yeah,
on this
very
guy.
underground, huh?
Very, yeah. All right, so let's describe the sound of this record then.
I think the comparison to Earl Sweatshirt is pretty apt. He's got that same kind of like real like laid back kind of like lazy type flow to him.
Yeah.
And then the beats, I like the beats and stuff on the record quite a bit more. It got like kind of vaporwavy at times.
Yes.
And that was like really cool. It made me think I never, maybe it exists and I just don't know, but I've never heard like rap and vaporwave, meet, and I never really thought about it, but it's like a good idea. I wish, more people would do it. Or if that exists, write in, let me know.
Yeah, please. Yeah. It is cool. It's a cool combo, and it's like, it does sound like it's kind of like that Jay Dilla Madlib thing, just because it's like there's soul samples and stuff, but yeah, it's done like in a vaporwave way. Like if Jay Dilla was really into vaporwave, it's also very abstract. Like the beats change a lot. It almost seems like sometimes the song divisions are like, arbitrary or something. Like one of the songs will have like 3 little songs in it, and then like the song like Greed is like sort of the intro to Greedy, and
yeah,
it's quite all over the place, sort of hard to follow along with. Would you add anything, Darin?
I mean, I don't know anything about vaporwave, but to me, this, it does sound very do it yourself. And I when you mentioned that kind of the whole self-release thing, like to me, it sounds, it sounds like somebody or a group of people have just sort of put this together, kind of grabbing things from all over the place. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, it clearly doesn't have like that, well-produced, high dollar studio quality to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not shined up at all.
No, not at all. And being like kind of schizophrenic-y with like the production. I mean, we were complaining last week, or I guess mostly I was, about Vince Staples having that same quality and him just getting lost like in this, really needlessly abstract kind of like the beat changes all the time. I mean, do you guys feel like Mike gets lost here as a rapper?
I do a little bit. This sounds like, and again, I don't know anything about him. This sounds like somebody's, kind of maybe first album or first project, and they just haven't found their footing yet. I think he's got potential. I'd be interested to hear what he comes out with next. But yeah, he gets like a little lost in it. It's like he can't decide what kind of experimental thing he wants to do. The vaporwave kind of thing isn't there the whole time. It comes and goes. I thought those moments kind of stood out to me as I wish he would have taken the whole record in that direction. But yeah, it just kind of like gets a little lost in it. I said the same thing about Vince Staples. If you're gonna do something, you got to do it like how Jesus. You gotta fully commit to the to the experiment, and you have to have the skill to carry whatever weird thing you're doing.
Do you agree with that, Darin?
Yeah, I think he gets lost, and I always have trouble when I'm listening to like a brand new rapper that I've never heard before, especially when it has like features and stuff. Just being able to identify him specifically, without like, obviously, I guess with multiple listens or long time listening, I would totally be able to understand it. But just that initial impression, it does sound like it's hard to identify him.
Yeah, but I think he shows promise here. I do think he gets lost a little bit. And what's cool is like I think the beats are kind of cool, like we've been talking about, and so it sounds like a collaboration between this Slums crew and Mike, sort of. But I like both of those qualities a lot, and so I really enjoy listening to it. And I see him as somebody with promise. Like this record gives me that kind of hope because he does, maybe it's a little bit too much like Earl Sweatshirt, but it's just like this very like just the observant, like the slow style where it's just like the words are precise and like just the right things. And the way he's talking about like sort of, being depressed and wandering around and just like really real shit. I don't know. It's like I'm torn between, is he just kind of being Earl Sweatshirt or is he unique enough to like make you excited to follow his career?
I think like especially with rappers, a lot of times like their very early projects, you could tell who they're influenced by, and they kind of you kind of bite their flow a little bit or something. My favorite, Young Thug, his early stuff, you can just tell he's obsessed with Lil Wayne, and he finally found his footing and does something completely different. And I think Mike's maybe fallen in that trap right now of just kind of being like Earl. In fact, I hate to speculate this, but his name, like just using Mike as a name, like kind of makes me think of Earl, in and of its own. Hopefully it's something, he gets out of and he finds his own footing, and makes Earl or whatever become an influence rather than just kind of copying it. I don't think he's like 100% copying it right now, but it's it's a little closer than maybe it should be.
I was thinking about the name actually, Mike. At first I was like furious, like how's anybody supposed to find this dude? This is such.
It's like the 8th one down
name
on Rate Your Music. It's very
annoying. I know. But like the more I was thinking about it, I don't know, this added like a level of depth for me. Like, I kept thinking of like, I don't know if I'm supposed to, if this was his intention at all, but like, Mike Brown, right? Which he, his death started the Black Lives Matter movement, basically, right? It was Ferguson, and that was like the start of it. And just the fact that this dude's name is Mike, I don't know, it just sort of like subtly makes me think of that, but it just makes me think of like, the way he sounds like, I mean, he's 18 and he sounds like just such a normal 18-year-old kid, you know, like sort of depressed, like waiting for the train. He lives in New York and, you know, just walking around, just like sort of thinking about random shit or like thinking about his mom or like, I don't know, added like this weird level of depth that I don't know if I'm reading it into this just because he has the same name and if I shouldn't be, but I was like, man, this is like just like the normal ass kid that like Mike Brown would have been. You know what I mean? Am I adding that to this? It has no business being there, or do you think that's a legitimate kind of thing to be feeling while listening to this?
I think the name just being Mike does lend to that. Just normal kind of guy. You know, if his name was some crazy nickname, it kind of makes it seem more like a character. Whereas if it's just I assume his real first name, it does kind of it makes it more like that kid on the street.
Yeah, he's like every kid.
Yeah, and that's good. Maybe throw a last name in there so you're a little easier to find on Google. But
yeah, I know. Yeah. All right, so Darin, got an 8.3 BNM, pretty much the lowest BNM they'll hand out. How are you feeling about that?
I don't think it really needs to be a BNM, to be honest. I think the 8.3 is a little bit high. This album maybe sounds something more around like a 7.3, 7.4. Then maybe like the next album could be higher up there if he kind of finds his footing, like the way you guys were sort of mentioning. I did want to mention that, like, I don't know how you guys feel about Earl Sweatshirt now, but like I was way more into him like kind of when he first sort of came onto the scene, and have become a whole lot less interested in him and pretty much all of the members of that
Odd Future
golf wing, whatever they're called, the Odd Future. And
well, let me just say, Earl, I think, is a fucking genius. I think he's like one of the best people working right now. I eagerly await his next shit, and I like all of his previous shit. I mean, I think he's such like a fresh and original take. Like I think he's like fantastic.
I think he's the one from Odd Future. I mean, I guess Frank Ocean too. That like has lasted and didn't just fall into that bullshit like teenager kind of stuff. Tyler's maybe a little bit.
I root for him. I can't stop. I want him to be good so bad.
Yeah, me too. But he just like can't seem to like completely escape it. I feel like Earl has completely escaped it. And I mean, that first record he made, he was like 14 or 15 or something.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, now he's closer to 20 or something, and you can tell he's like grown up and gotten past it. Whereas like other people, like was that like Mellow Hype and stuff, like you'll never hear from them again. You don't need to hear from them again stuff. So yeah, I think Earl has lasted. I agree with you there, Gabe.
Yeah. I think he's one of these guys that, like, if you ask like these big hip hop dudes, like, who are the kind of up and comers that you're really interested in?
Yeah,
they're always like, oh yeah, I really want to see what Earl's going to do. But were you going to say something, Darin, like about why is Mike sounding like Odd Future when he's like 4 years too late or something?
Well, I was just thinking that maybe he'll sink into that sort of thing where everyone else in Odd Future, other than Frank Ocean and Earl Sweatshirt, kind of became less interesting. But anyway, yeah, like I said, I wouldn't give it a B&M though. Or about you guys?
Yeah, I agree. I don't. On one hand, I'm a little glad it got the B&M because I did enjoy this, and I look forward to seeing what he does next. If I can even ever, if I ever even know that he did anything next, because one, he's not very famous, and two, I'd follow him on Facebook or something, but you search Mike, you get 8 billion people. But beside that, I think 8.3 is a little too high. This is somebody getting started. I think he's got a lot of promise. Like I said, I look forward to him, but I think it's somewhere more like a 7.5. It's worth listening to if you're a fan of this type of stuff, but it's not something that every single person needs to hear.
Are you hitting on the drums a little bit there, Dan?
No.
Busting a solo?
My plug for my pedal board fell off the table.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, that's what that was. When it terrorizes you, you're listening to this on your drive to work, and you crash and drive off a bridge. It was Dan's fault.
It was just a one spot falling. You're all right.
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree with the score because I think I think there's a lot of there's some issues with this where it sounds like he's not quite there yet, but I'm really glad that I heard it because I don't know, there's sort of a depth to this. It's kind of a cool, refreshing vibe that I haven't heard really yet. And then it's I think got so much promise that, I hope he doesn't drop off the face of the earth. I hope Pitchfork doubles down on trying to make him famous because I really enjoyed it. So I'll agree with the low BNM.
Interesting. But before we move on to the next album, we just want to remind you to hit that subscribe button and help us out a lot by leaving us a nice review in the iTunes store or telling a friend about the podcast. Of course, thanks to all the people who already have done that. And don't forget to email, tweet, or Facebook message us. Follow along with Pitchfork's reviews and email us your thoughts on the albums we'll be discussing or ask us about anything at all. You can email us at metaphoricmusic@gmail.com or find us on any of the social media outlets at metaphoricmusic. Now let's hear a little bit of that Sunday review.
I don't understand. Somebody tell me, please. Tell me. Why do I have to pay attorney fees? Attorney fees. Ooh, baby, this is a joke. I need a smoke.
That Sunday review was Marvin Gaye, Here My Dear, which was released by Tamla in 1978, and on Sunday got an 8.7 in a review by Ryan Dumble. Background: the fifth album of Marvin Gaye's so-called auteur period, when he broke away from the Motown production model and seized complete creative control over his own music, is a fascinating and highly divisive double LP with a pretty complicated backstory. Check out Pitchfork's review if you want the whole background detail, but we'll give you the short version right here. Essentially, when Gaye was a 24-year-old aspiring R&B singer, he met and married Anna Gardy, the 41-year-old sister of the founder of Motown Records. Gaye quite openly described this match in opportunistic terms, saying, "Marrying a queen might not make me king, but at least I'd have a shot at being prince." Very, very timely there. They seem to have had some genuine affection for each other, but their lengthy marriage was extremely turbulent from the start. According to Pitchfork's review, Gaye was basically a disgusting chauvinist and cheated on his wife constantly, including with a 16-year-old girl, which he impregnated twice, and then married and again divorced. Maybe we'll talk about that record later on.
Oh, Marvin.
Yeah, I never knew that. That's a little gross. As bad as he was at marriage, though, Gaye was also pretty bad with money. When Anna finally filed for divorce in 1975, Gaye could not afford the alimony or settlement payments, so he worked out a scheme to give his ex-wife half of the royalties from his next LP. But being the gentleman and scholar that he was, Gaye decided to record the shittiest album he possibly could. Which is a good idea, but he quickly became fascinated by detailing his ongoing divorce proceedings with extremely candid lyrics, realized he's just too good, couldn't make a shitty album. When the record was first released, most critics found this approach kind of cringe-inducing and saw Gaye as self-pitying and annoying. The subdued and consistently mid-tempo funk of the musical backing also helped ensure the album's commercial failure. In retrospect, several publications have begun calling Here My Dear one of Gaye's most fascinating works. Indeed, Pitchfork argues that even though Gaye was a complete asshole in real life, few albums offer such thoughtful, nuanced, and progressive explorations of marriage and divorce. Minus the one song about having sex in a space bed. But do you guys have any previous familiarity with Marvin Gaye and this LP in particular?
I would call myself a pretty big Marvin Gaye fan, but I've never felt the urge to really branch out. I mean, I think obviously Let's Get It or What's Going On is a perfect record. Let's Go On is also good, but What's Going On is a perfect record. And then it's kind of he's got all these great singles, like these Motown singles that, you should get yourself a greatest hits or whatever. And I feel like, there's some interesting stuff to explore, but that's sort of enough. Get yourself a nice anthology of his hits, and then What's Going On? Why do I keep confusing it too? And, I think that's enough. That's kind of how I feel about it. What about you, Darin?
Yeah, I think I'm about the same. Obviously I'm familiar with What's Going On and then several of his hits, and just never really thought about exploring beyond that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm the bigger Marvin Gaye fan here. I love Marvin Gaye. Of course, What's Going On is one of the greatest records ever, but I think some of his other ones are worth hearing too. I mean, you kept confusing it, but Let's Get It On is great. I Want You's great. Moods of Marvin Gaye is great. And this is another one of the albums that I've always checked out. I mean, he has a pretty extensive discography, actually, and I've never really gotten too heavy into those old Motown ones. But this is one of the great ones from the auteur period, if you will.
Sounds like you're the gayest metaphor host.
That was good. What time does 8th grade start tomorrow? Go ahead and describe the sound if you can muster up the maturity.
So yeah, I mean it's something else. I mean, if we're talking both lyrics and music, I mean musically it's quite samey. I mean, like every song is almost the same tempo with like the same kind of like mid-tempo groove, like sort of funk. It just sounds like the same like musical arrangements, like the same instruments are on every track. And so I guess the lyrics are supposed to be first and foremost, and it's weird how like literal they are. I mean, he sort of like is slipping into like really smooth Marvin Gaye vocal type, but he'll just like sort of say like almost like spoil the mood when he just says something like I'm sick of paying attorney fees or something like it fucks with me.
But he does it in such like a cool and groovy way. Like to me, it's like this is like the kind of like the funkiest, like grooviest
divorce ever.
Yeah, I'm just like, man, I can get down to this. Like, this is great.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Darin. I really like that part of the record. I love that line of, and in fact, it's been kind of like stuck in my head all week listening to this. That like, why I got to pay attorney fees and stuff. I think I thought that was great, and that just made it feel super personal to me. Like it makes you feel, he didn't just decide to write a song about or an album about heartbreak or something, which someone could have done. Saying stuff like that's like very specific to himself. Specific. I mean, there's a song called Anna's Song.
Right. Yeah.
Doing that I think made it more of a personal record. Like this is his actual life and what he's actually going through. Because this is actually his first album that he wrote the lyrics for. And stuff.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I don't think he's, like, great at it, to be honest. I mean, he's, like... I don't know, it was very, like, deflating to me, like, this whole experience. Because I had not heard this, and, I just think of, like, Marvin Gaye as, like, a god, basically. I mean, What's Going On is, like, one of the greatest records ever made. And... he sounds just like transcendently like wise. Like he's so, and I know he didn't write the lyrics, but just the way he's like delivering this music,
well.
he understands everything about every social issue that we're going to experience for the next like 100 years or something like that. Like no matter what happens, we could look back to that record and he would have the answers for us or something. And then there's even that same quality to like his greatest Motown singles. Something like I Heard It Through the Grapevine is like sublime, or Ain't No Mountain High Enough, or something. Like these are like, I don't know, just some like wisdom about him. And I even think it's wisdom when it's like he then moves into like Let's Get It On, and it's like what's more liberating than like social justice? Oh yeah, fucking love it. But to hear him just like talk about regular things, like I just assume he doesn't do regular things. Like he's Marvin Gaye, he just like is like a god or something,
right? And you don't think his voice is just like the voice of a god? Just, I mean, yeah, he elevates these like very mundane sort of topics. Don't you think? You don't think so?
I don't know. I assumed he didn't he didn't do normal people things. Like he didn't eat or anything like that.
I get what you're getting at, Gabe, and on one hand I agree with you, but on the other hand, that's what makes this record pretty great is like taking him down from being a god and showing you that he did go through the same kind of, everyday man kind of stuff. And I could see, maybe you don't want that God taken down. I don't think I'd want a Prince record that took Prince off that,
right.
know. But Marvin Gaye to me isn't that Prince figure. He's not as untouchable. I do agree with you that he is like this big kind of God thing, but it was
kind of that.
Yeah, but I don't think quite as much, and not so much that it's not nice to kind of, have him taken down and hear the more, normal aspects of his life.
Didn't it bother you? I was also mortified. I didn't know all this shitty stuff that he did, and it's
yeah,
we can talk about it was nice to hear him doing real shit, but it's it's been forever since I impregnated a 16-year-old girl twice. You know what I mean? I can't even relate.
Dan was just regular guy stuff.
Yeah, just regular guy stuff.
It's refreshing to hear just these regular. I don't know. It was mortifying. Not only is he human, but he's reprehensible.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about the 16-year-old thing. I've had the big Marvin Gaye biography on my Amazon wish list for quite a while, but I've never gotten around to reading it. And
it's gonna be a good read.
Here's a little spoiler there for you.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, not to make that sound any less bad or anything, but, it wasn't super out of the ordinary at the time. David Bowie...
All right, here comes the apologist.
No.
Yeah, I know.
David Bowie dated some...
Age is just a number.
Some young people. Iggy Pop not only dated, but lived with a 14-year-old girl for quite a while. Not saying it's any less gross.
Do not drag Iggy Pop through the mud just to make up for Marvin Gaye's transgressions here.
I'm...
Okay, no, I get what you're saying, all right? So it's I don't know...
It's perfectly acceptable. Is that what you're saying?
I am, for the record, I'm not saying that at all.
Did that fuck with you, Darin?
No, I don't know. I mean, it definitely kind of changes, obviously, his image as a man, and then even the topics that he's addressing. You have to, if you're really going to take it literally, there's definitely a level of skepticism about what he's saying.
Yeah, and how can you feel bad for him?
Right, that's, precisely. But, I mean, the way he sings and the songs are just so... I just start to groove with him, how can anybody hate this man? That's what I start to think, And then you tell me that he impregnated a 16-year-old twice, I'm just like, it can't be. It just can't be.
I just love that it's twice.
yeah. He didn't learn his lesson the first time. No. But I mean...
Marvin.
Speaking of impregnation, at least, he takes us on a little side trip to Pluto when he's the captain of a space bed. What I mean, that was was he just trying to
So I think he needed a single.
Yeah, was he just trying to roll off the success of Parliament? I mean, because this is the most Parliament song that Parliament did not write ever.
Yes. No, I think honestly, you listen to the record and it's there are all these slow kind of mid-tempo grooves that all basically sound the same if you're not paying attention to the lyrics, and obviously that's not good for radio. And I honestly feel like he just had to put... I wouldn't even be surprised if he wrote it earlier or something. It's just so random, this space sex song.
But the best part of that, and this speaks to the 70s, hey Marvin, we're just really gonna, this divorce stuff, it's cool and all, but we're gonna need a single. Oh yeah, that's okay. I have an 8.5 minute song about fucking in space. Great, Marvin. We'll press it, send it out to the radio.
Yes,
it's nice. Smoking a joint from Venus. The Plutonians. All
I was going through some hard times. I think
it was great. That was the high point of the record. For real.
Yeah. So I mean. All right, one last question, and then we should share our scores here. But do you think he talked like that? The way he talks at the start?
Yeah, it really. He sounds like Michael Jackson, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just in normal life, if you're what kind of sandwich do you want? He's ham and cheese.
I honestly, I really meant to before this. I forgot to do it. I meant to like listen to an interview with him because I don't think I've ever actually heard him speak like in an interview or anything. Because was he just Michael Jackson? Not to bring up the kid thing again.
I like how he just starts like crooning, all like he's speaking, and it's just like
he can't help it.
He can't talk about this sandwich. He's just like, and a little mustard, like just all of a sudden goes into it. It's like
feeling the groove, just
cannot resist. Cannot resist.
So to sum it all up, a lot of this record I found like did find cringy in a like funny way. It like really damaged my image of Marvin Gaye in my mind. I didn't think the music was good enough. Like, it's just like sort of the same groove all the time. It's sort of nice to put on around the house, but then you're like, why are we going to listen to the same song for 73 minutes? I just want to kind of forget any of this about poor Marvin here and just like pretend like I never knew this record existed. Doesn't it objectively make the world a worse place?
No, I mean,
impregnated a 16-year-old girl twice.
Yeah,
he sings a love song to her.
Okay, I'm doing the whole separate the art from the artist thing here, and because if you don't do that, then of course impregnating a 16-year-old girl twice makes the world a worse place. It
really makes "Let's Get It On." Not
the
see, it's ruining him. It's ruining Marvin Gaye.
But if you
don't listen to this,
I think if you separate it, separate the art from the artist, I think the album is a good album, and it's an interesting look at divorce. Something that I really can't think of another album that really is so candidly about divorce.
Blood on the Tracks, baby.
True, but not as candidly. I mean, that's an album that I know is about divorce because I'm obsessed with Dylan. You know it because you know the story. But I think if you put that on, you don't say this is an album about divorce. Whereas this is like an album where you
don't have Dylan introducing it at the beginning.
Yeah, I know. I guess this is dedicated to you,
Sarah. Yeah. I mean, this one is like there's no sugarcoating it. He's not hiding behind allegory or analogy or anything like Dylan does. And Dylan denies that album. I mean, obviously he's full of shit, but he denies that album's about his personal life in any way. Marvin's not doing that here, and I think that is like what is so interesting about this. This isn't an album that I would recommend to somebody, if they're trying to get into Marvin Gaye. Of course, that's what's going on, and then I Want You and Let's Get It On. But then I would say, if you dug those records a lot and you wanna dig a little deeper, move on to Hear My Dear. It's not a record that you have to listen to.
So what are you giving it?
It's something for the bigger Marvin Gaye fan. But I think the score here is fair. 8.7. This isn't a classic, 10 or anything. Somewhere 8.5, maybe even. I'd maybe knock it down a notch or two. It is a little samey. It's quite a bit too long. We didn't really need 3 versions of When Did I Stop Loving You on here, but it's a really good album, I think.
Yeah, I would probably knock the score down a little bit here to around to like 8.3. I mean, I think look, it grooves. It's so smooth. I mean, despite all the personal stuff that he was going through or maybe causing for other people, like it's hard to beat Marvin Gaye's voice. You know what I mean? Just in general, his singing voice is, arguably unmatched. And you put that alongside just some groovy, chilled out, music, and even though you're going to hear it pretty much the same thing for the next 73 minutes or whatever, it's not bad. I didn't want to just, take my headphones off and stop listening,
Right.
So with that being said, I would give it probably like an 8.3. Yeah.
God, I mean, I do kind of feel like it's like enjoyable. And then when you pay attention, it sort of like hurts it. And then when you read the backstory, it hurts it even more. And
don't pay attention.
unfortunately, I'm there. I already know. Twice. Oh my God, Marvin!
You dirty dog.
Oh, I can't get over it. I'm gonna give it like a 6. I wish this didn't exist.
Oh,
6, man.
how could you?
There's nothing good enough to like, there's nothing good enough to be like, you need to hear that. It's like you get your fill on plenty of other stuff he's done, and
That's fair.
It's like you're shooting him all over again.
he deserved it, to be honest.
God.
Didn't feel like that?
Man. Oh my God.
Again, send your hate
This is a very
mail to...
controversial, very controversial episode.
Oh yeah! Before Gabe says anything else about Marvin, maybe we should go ahead and end it right there. Next week, like we said at the top, we've got Jay-Z 444. We'll talk about that record. Darin is beyond stoked. We could talk about the whole. That album's another one, even though it's new, with a lot of the backstory with the whole title sprint thing. We've got this Kanye feud maybe brewing. So that should be a fantastic record. We'll have whatever the classic is for you as well. So make sure you subscribe. Do that on iTunes, any podcast app. You can listen in the browser. Download it, metaphoricmusic.com. Email us your thoughts, comments, hate mail, metaphoricmusic@gmail.com. Stay connected. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram @metaphoricmusic. And we will see you next week.
See you.